To the markets now, let's cross over to the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Temple Ashaju has all the details of yesterday's trading activities. Hello, Temple. Good morning.
Good morning, Chimaze.
So talk to us about yesterday's trading. What are the factors that drove market sentiment yesterday?
Well, we continue to see buy interest on some of the major companies that are really with fundamentals in the market, and that has been able to help the indices bring down its month-to-date losses to the positive territory now, where we've seen it rising to some 0.90%. So in terms of the losses in year-to-date, on the year-to-date side of things, it's been trimmed as well down to 18.54%. For the greater part of this week, the market has been on the gaining side, and the gaining streak has been maintained on the buy interest of a whole lot of investors who are looking to take position ahead of the December rally. We know that in terms of the volume of activity that we saw yesterday, things were really positive, up by some 0.1%. And for the value coming in at 2.30 billion naira, that was up by some 9.2% in terms of percentage. And the indices was basically up some 0.47% yesterday, when the equity capitalization settled at 11.32 trillion naira. If we look at the sectoral analysis of the performance, just two segments of the market performed positively yesterday: industrial goods sector and, of course, the insurance sector were the two indices that did well yesterday. Industrial goods was up by some 0.85% on account of the gains that Dangote Cement at last-minute trading came with into the market, rising by some 2.70%, but still trading at the 180 naira region. If you look at the insurance segment of the market, you've got Wapik Insurance, which was up by 8.11%, and of course Veritas Capital, which did the most gain yesterday in the market by 10%, as the two key companies that drove up the performance of that indices of the Nigerian Stock Exchange yesterday. For other sectors such as the banking, consumer goods, and of course the oil and gas, as well as the consumer goods sector, they were all negative yesterday. Banking sector down 102 basis points because we got a loss of 1.81% in Guarantee Trust Bank and a couple of other banks that you have in the market, albeit the fact that the top trade yesterday was seen in FBN Holdings in the market. You also have the consumer goods segment of the market, according to the loss that we saw on international breweries by some 4.23%, that brought down that indices by some 0.18%. And for the oil and gas segment of the market, Seplat lost 2.46% and ended up outweighing the gains that should have come to that sector by 0.61%. But basically, the market breadth was positive yesterday in the equities market. CCNN was down by some 9.72%, and it emerged as the topmost loser yesterday in the market. A whole lot of analysts are now beginning to review their estimates for the full-year earnings of the cement subsector of the Nigerian stock market, given the losses that they experienced in the third quarter of this year. They are now reducing their estimates on Dangote Cement, on WAPCO, and of course on CCN and a couple of other companies that you got to watch in that subsector of the NSE. But for the stock to watch, according to Vetiva Capital Management, Flour Mill is a company that they have been watching, and it's been up for 3 consecutive sessions in the market. Yesterday gained some 422 basis points to 21 naira, but currently at 28% loss of its year open. And that is one company that is really low in terms of its share price right now, and investors should also be watching, just like the analysts have put. In terms of the energy side of the market, you look at the numbers, just 10 of the companies recorded transactions yesterday, but most of them, 8 of these companies, weren't able to get movements in their numbers and their share prices, except for Oando, that was positive by 5.32%, and it ended at 4 naira 95 kobo. Seplat, as I said earlier, was down 2.46%, and it ended closing negatively at 598 naira 90 kobo. And in terms of the unlisted securities markets, talking about the NASDOTC now, the USI moved back to the 700 psychological line. It talks about the stubbornness of that index that we talked about yesterday, and it was up yesterday by 2.70%, having seen some good buy interest in Ensure PLC, which which was responsible for some 15 million units of volume that came into the market yesterday, off the entire 25.57 million units of shares traded on that platform yesterday. Mastcom did 1 million, and CSCS had some 905,000 units there. But in total, we had some 25.57 million units of shares traded yesterday at the NASDOTC. It was all valued at 488.71 million naira. The value rose by over 5,000% yesterday. Whatever is going on means that investors are taking position in that market as well ahead of the full year 2018 that will be closing on the 31st of December. Generally, we had just 12 deals yesterday at the unlisted securities market, as the market capitalization closed at 495 naira 67 billion naira. So let's look at the bonds market, which is the fixed income side of things here. We got bearish outing yesterday again. So far this week, what we've seen is bearish outing. Investors have been waiting on the sideline for news, for information that will come in from the regulatory side of things. The DMO is expected to release the circular for the December bond auction, and of course the 100 billion naira Sukuk program that is supposed to be floated this month as well. We also know that the DMO is also involved in with Kano State government and some kind of an awareness campaign on the bonds market. All of these are information that investors have been tracking. But basically yesterday, average yield rose some 3 basis points to 15.54% from 15.51% in the previous trading session. And we saw sell-offs concentrated at the short end of the curve, and that led to expansion by 10 basis points in the market. Look at the 13th of February 2020, which you have right there on the screen. It was priced at a high of 100 naira 50 kobo, but that's the highest. In terms of the lowest that we've seen was just 100 naira flat. But yesterday we saw 900 million naira worth of transaction in 3 deals across that particular security. However, towards the end of the market closing between 1:30 and 2 p.m. when the secondary market closes, we saw buy interest, demand, basically, in the 17th of March 2027, and of course the April 2037 and the March 2036 securities. Yesterday, investors came for all of these major 3 securities. That's why you have some 5 billion or about 5 billion naira pushed across these 3 securities yesterday in the market. At the mid side of the curve, we then saw a contraction of 1 basis point, but at the long end of the curve, we saw a bit of expansion by just 1 basis point. The demand on 2027 March and of course the 2026 of March brought about some kind of contraction as well at the end of the market. But in terms of the total deals we had was 24. Total value was 6.65 billion naira. Let's look at what the Treasury bills market had to offer yesterday. It was also bearish because average yield increased by 13 basis points. We also saw that rising to 15.29%. And there was, of course, a whole lot of sell pressure across the short end of the curve, where we saw expansion by 38 basis points. And of course, at the long end of the curve, we saw expansion by 4 basis points. The reason for all of this is simply because investors have continued to give cold shoulder to the securities at the market. Specifically, you saw the 8-day to maturity not really experiencing much sentiment from investors as the central bank continues to offer to mop up excess cash in the system. Basically, we saw 92 billion naira mopped up by the central bank yesterday after the Apex Bank offered 180 billion naira. Chimeze.